Manchester United's proposed deal with Burnley for Sander Berge is on. Double bid for Sofyan Amrabat, and apparently United are set to sign 2 more players before the transfer window ends. These are some of the stories we will be discussing on this morning's live show. But before we get into that, please do me one small favour. Smash a like on today's video. Let's try and see 1,000 likes on this episode. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe to the channel. We're on the brink of hitting 36,000 subscribers. So if this is your first time watching, please do make sure to get involved. Everybody is welcome. I'm live at 8:30, 1:30 and 6 every single day. Right, let's get straight on into it then, shall we? Because there's so much to discuss around Manchester United this morning. The news is coming out thick and fast, and I want to go straight in with the big story that I think most people are probably going to want to discuss, and that is Sander Berge. And I'm going to ask you from the off, I want to get people's opinions. Are you happy with Manchester United signing Sander Berge? Are you happy about it? We did a little comparison yesterday, and I'm going to get it up on my screen actually, because I think sometimes it's easier for people to visualize things. I know some of you will just be listening like in your cars or have me on in the background, but I think sometimes it is good for you to be able to see like what I'm talking about, so we can go through it. Because there was a really interesting stats kind of photo that I found last night, which compares Martin Zubimendi with Sander Berge, and I want to go through it together on the show this morning, because I think there's been a lot of negativity towards Sander Berge from some people in the fan base, and I think a lot of it is potentially slightly ill-informed, and the narrative is because he played for Burnley, that means he's not good enough, and I think that's maybe a little bit unfair. So I'm going to get it up on my screen right here. I don't know whether it's going to fit nicely. It's not going to fit nicely, so I'm going to get rid of it. I'll try and work out a way in the future to be able to get stats up on the screen, but at the moment, you've just got me. So there was a stat that went out yesterday, and it was comparing, as I said, Martin Zubimendi with Sander Berge, and it was on all the stats from last season. Okay, so we're going to go through some of the key ones together this morning. So passing accuracy, Sander Berge's was 88%, Zubimendi was 86%. Long passes was 116 versus 92 for Zubimendi. Long pass accuracy, 72% for Sander Berge, only 50% for Martin Zubimendi. Tackles made, 76 versus 49 for Zubimendi. Duels won, 179 for Sander Berge versus 49 for Martin Zubimendi. Duels won, block shots, 20 Sander Berge, 9 Zubimendi. Ball recoveries, 202 for Sander Berge and 169 for Martin Zubimendi. So I know stats aren't everything, and I know sometimes, like, for example, Harry Maguire's passing stats are amazing, but he just passes the ball sideways. Like, I get it. There are some examples where stats are kind of irrelevant, but generally, the stats and the data I've seen on Sander Berge over the last couple of days has really, really excited me. And I know people are like, why are you getting excited about a Burnley player who got relegated? That doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't. If you look at Tottenham, right, last season, Tottenham were, at points, absolutely unbelievable. And that was because of James Maddison. The season before that, James Maddison got relegated with Leicester to the Championship. You know, just because a team gets relegated doesn't mean that they don't have 1 or 2 players in there which are good enough to make the jump. And in that case, James Maddison. We should have signed James Maddison instead of Mason Mount. James Maddison went for what, like £30 million, was it? We paid £60 million for Mason Mount, right? And we could have got, last summer, James Maddison, couldn't we? James Maddison moved to Tottenham for under £40 million, and we paid £60 million for Mason Mount. They're both about the same age, roughly. I think Mason Mount's a couple of years younger. So yeah, just because a team gets relegated doesn't mean that they don't have good players. But I'll be interested to see how everyone's feeling about Sander Berge this morning. Like, let me know in the comment section below. Is he world class? Probably not. But is he good enough to improve what we have at the moment? I think so, because we don't have any CDMs. The only CDM we have is Casemiro. And let's be honest, most people in the fan base want Casemiro to be sold. So I think he'll be good, and it's a squad game. It's going to take years. It's going to take time. And I do personally think that going for someone like Sander Berge for only £20 million at the age of 25 is a much more sensible option than spending 60 million on Manuel Ugarte. That's my opinion. Obviously, if you disagree, that is obviously completely fine. Reaper says Tottenham just signed Archie Gray, who was in the Championship. Yeah, of course. Robbie says stats are misleading because Burnley were overrun and Zubimendi was not. I mean, how many times did you watch Burnley last season? That's the question. Because the games I saw of Burnley, they played better football than Manchester United did. And that's no joke. And I've said this to you guys on the show before. Like, what's the most important thing to you as a Manchester United fan? Do you want to see beautiful football or do you want to win trophies? Because Arsenal supposedly Arsenal supposedly play beautiful football and they've won less trophies than we have since Erik ten Hag's been here. Arteta's won 1 trophy in 5 years. Erik ten Hag's won 2 in 2 years. So this is the question that I always find myself asking people. It's like, what's the most important thing for you? Beautiful football. Brighton play beautiful football. They're never going to win anything. So that's the question. And last season, the football was awful and we won an FA Cup. Whereas genuinely, I honestly think that Burnley played better football than Manchester United last season in the Premier League. Without a shadow of a doubt. Without a shadow of a doubt. When Burnley came to Manchester United, he was the best player on the pitch. And that was at Old Trafford. Ellen says Sander Berge is a guy who will work hard for the club and doesn't care about fame, haircut and tattoos. Yeah, of course. Sam says you can still have both. I mean, you can't really though. Who's the example of a team in the Premier League who plays beautiful football and wins everything? Because realistically, right, Man City at points play beautiful football, but a lot of the time I think Man City's football's boring, to be honest. They have 70-80% possession and they just pass the ball backwards and forwards until a space opens up. It's not really exciting, is it? It's dominating, but I wouldn't say Man City's football is generally exciting. They just wear teams into the ground. And it works and it's great, but it's not like breathtaking football, is it? At points it is. And the same with Arsenal. You know, they play really nice football, but they've won 1 trophy in 5 years. So it's a really difficult one, you know, and people have this obsession of like Manchester United need to play certain types of football and we need to be entertained. And of course I get it. Football's an entertainment sport and you want to be entertained. But if we're winning trophies, that's the most important thing, you know. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer played quite exciting football, didn't he? It was counter-attacking football and it was exciting to watch and he won nothing. Whereas Erik ten Hag's come in, the football's been pretty terrible, let's be fair. I'll admit that. The football over the last 2 years has been terrible, I think, personally. And we've won 2 trophies and got to 3 finals. So it's a really, really difficult one. And there's no right or wrong answer. Yeah, it is difficult. Craig says, go and rewatch the Burnley game at Old Trafford. Sander Berge can definitely play. Yeah, of course, mate. He was better than any of our midfielders. And it has to be baby steps at the moment. We're not going to go from the team that we have now to a team of world-class players in 1 transfer window. It's just not how football works anymore. If it was 10, 15 years ago, great, we could have done that. You know how Man City did it. They came in, they spent 500 million. You know, they invested in every area of the team. No financial fair play, and yeah, look where they are now. Robbie says Sander Berge is a good player. He's much better than McTominay. I would agree with you there, 100%. Ruggiero says it's not unreasonable to expect players on 100 to 300k per week to play beautiful football and still win trophies. I get your point, mate. I do. I fully understand what you're saying, but like, name me some teams in the Premier League who play beautiful football and win loads of trophies. Because Man City win everything, and I don't think Man City's football's entertaining, personally. So yeah, it's all football's so tactical now. It's so pragmatic. Yeah, but anyway, let's move on from that. You can let me know your thoughts on Sander Berge in the comment section. I'll read out the news that we have this morning. I've kind of just given my opinion on him there without bringing you guys the news. But this story came out from the Muffateers, which is, I think the guy's name's James. He seems to have really good information around Manchester United. And he is reporting this morning that there are indications from people around Sander Berge that his transfer to Manchester United is moving forward. Sky Sports came out last night saying that apparently Manchester United are in talks. They've confirmed that they are in talks with Burnley, trying to agree a fee. Apparently, a deal would be worth somewhere around £20 million, plus around £5 million in add-ons. I think we will get him, and I've got no problem with it at all. I've seen some people like screaming because he played for Burnley and he got relegated, and I just think like, if you actually kind of take a deep breath and properly have a look at the stats, look at the player, look at what we're needing, I think he ticks the box. Is he going to be our next midfielder for the next 5, 6, 7 years, starting every single game? I don't know. Maybe not. But you could have said the same thing about Manuel Ugarte. Like, there's no guarantee that Manuel Ugarte comes to Manchester United and it works. Like, it might not have worked. The same with Martin Zubimendi. You know, a player that's played at Real Sociedad his whole career. How can we say for certain that Zubimendi would join Manchester United and suddenly be a success? Like, it might not have worked. At least with Sander Berge, we can look at the situation and say he's played in the Premier League. He's 6'4". He's very physical. He was Burnley's best player last season. They played us off the pitch at Old Trafford. Burnley, I think, played better football than us. So surely that has to be a positive, you know? And it's baby steps. Sunil says it's a disgrace that Manchester United want to pay £30 million for a championship player. No one else wants him. That's not actually correct, though, because Liverpool wanted him before. Manchester United tried to sign Sander Berge 4 years ago when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was the manager. Go back and look. The stories are there. That Manchester United were very close to signing him 4 years ago when he was playing at Genk. He joined Sheffield United in the end when they were in the Premier League for 20 million, and then he went to Burnley. Just go back and have a look at all of the players that have come from the Championship that now play in the Premier League. There are so many. So many players. Andy Robertson got relegated with Hull. The next season he's at Liverpool. He's now one of the best left-backs in the world, or was at points. Joe Gomez is another example. Ollie Watkins was playing relegation Conference League football for Western-super-Mare, and now he's in the England squad scoring goals at the Euros. James Maddison gets relegated with Leicester. The next season he goes and moves to Tottenham. Like, there are so many examples. Gareth Bale's another one. He was at Southampton in the Championship, moves to Tottenham, and the rest is history. Like, just because somebody plays in a lower division doesn't mean that you should immediately write them off. And I think if you actually properly think about it, right, and this isn't even me being dramatic, I would say that most of the teams in the Championship, at least in the top half, would probably beat most of the teams in the French League, realistically. The quality of the French League is poor. Very, very poor. Other than like PSG and the kind of top 4 teams, it's a very, very low quality. And I'm almost certain that like a Burnley would go and give a Monaco or a Nice a game, 100%. So to be like, oh, it's the Championship, why do we not look down on the French League like that? Why do we not say, oh, it's the French League, you know? We were going to spend £60 million on a player who couldn't even get in the PSG team and was sat on the bench all season with an 18-year-old in Warren Zaire-Emery ahead of him. But yet, that's somehow a good signing. But when you have a player who just won Player of the Season for Burnley, Players Player of the Season for Burnley, stats-wise was one of the best CDMs in the whole Premier League, I think only just under Rodri. But that somehow means that he's not good enough. But yet Manuel Ugarte, who's 3 times the price, barely even played, and plays in a league that's not even competitive because PSG win it every single season, is somehow the divine right answer. Like, I just don't understand it. And I think we need to kind of lose this obsession where anybody who's not in playing for a top club is not good enough for Manchester United. But maybe I'm wrong. Daniel says we can't afford anyone else. We can't sell anyone. This isn't even an option. We have no choices. We tried. It didn't work out. This is a good fullback player on the cheap. There you go. There you go. Elite Baller says Ross Barkley was relegated. Now he's at Villa. Stephanie says Jamie Vardy was in non-league and then he joined Leicester. Yeah, there's so many examples. There's so many examples of players who were, you know, playing in low. Joshua says that Van Dijk was playing in the Championship. Are we saying that Van Dijk's not good enough just because he played in the Championship? You know? I actually really, really rate this. I think it's really clever to go and buy players from teams in lower divisions. If they're good enough, it doesn't matter whether they got relegated with Burnley. And yeah, it just frustrates me a little bit. And I've seen a lot of narrative on social media and, you know, people saying it's a disgrace and being very, very disrespectful towards this player. At the end of the day, we're just football fans. How many times have you watched Sander Berge play, right? The people that Ineos employ, the people that Ineos employ as their scouts will have watched him hundreds of times. Will literally probably be paid to watch the games back over and over again. We're basing this off the fact that he got relegated with Burnley, and that's some people's analysis on the player, you know? And I just don't think that's very fair. But obviously, if that's how you want to look at it, then that's obviously completely fine. That's up to you. I can't, you know, force you. RD says that Irwin, Pallister and Bruce were all signed from struggling teams. There you go. Anyway, let's move on from that. Obviously, you can let me know. Jay says Crystal Palace bought Eze and Elise from the Championship. Yeah, look, people are literally bringing out all the examples now. There are so many examples. So many examples. Roy Keane, another one, somebody saying in the chat. But you can let me know your thoughts on Sander Berge in the comment section. It looks like this deal will go ahead. £20 million plus around £5 million in add-ons. 25 years of age. Wages apparently going to be around 100 grand a week, which I think is maybe a little bit too much. But again, that's, it's not my job to hand out wages. He's on 40 grand a week at Burnley at the moment. I think he's their top earner at Burnley. So yeah, we'll wait and see what happens with that one. But just a quick one. We've got over 1,200 people watching the show live now, but we've only got 250 likes. So if everyone who's watching could do me a small favor and pause the video and go and like, that would be really, really appreciated. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe to the channel. We're very, very close to 36,000 subscribers now. Once we hit 40k, I'm going to be giving out 2 brand new Manchester United shirts. You can either have the blue one, the white one, or the home kit, whichever one you want. I'll be doing a competition on the channel, so make sure you go and subscribe if you haven't already. And the final plug I've got for you, because I know a lot of people like to continue the conversation, and if you want to have a bit of a back and forth with me, you want to have a bit of a debate, the best place to do that is over on Twitter. I've just started a Twitter account, and I am very active on there, so please go and follow us on Twitter. I'll drop a link in the chat to do that now. Yeah, everyone is welcome. Go and follow at me. If you disagree with my opinions, let's have a conversation on there, because it's difficult for me to read all of your live chats when they're coming in. So if you do want to continue our conversations, head on over to Twitter. It's just Daily Red Devil. I've dropped the link in the chat a couple of times, so make sure you go and do that now. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about Jean-Claire Todibo really, really quickly, because there's more pain this morning. And I'm actually devastated about this. So I don't know if any of you have seen this, but West Ham have apparently agreed a deal to sign Jean-Claire Todibo, 40 million euros. Now, what I don't understand about this is, why are we not allowed to sign Todibo? We know what the price is because West Ham have agreed a deal for 40 million euros, okay? Why aren't Manchester United able to match that bid? I understand UEFA's rules where they don't want effectively the Benjamin Sesko situation to happen again. So for anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, last summer, loads of clubs around Europe, PSG, Manchester United, a whole host of top clubs wanted to buy Benjamin Sesko from Red Bull Salzburg, okay? And instead of Red Bull Salzburg selling Benjamin Sesko for his market value, which was about 50 million at that time, they sold him to Red Bull Leipzig, which is obviously owned by the same people, and they sold him for 24 million, so half of his market value. Now, this is obviously slightly dodgy, isn't it? Because they had genuine bids on the table from Man United, PSG, amongst many other top clubs for double that amount. But instead, they said, we'll sell him to Red Bull Leipzig for 24 million in the hope that in 2 or 3 seasons, he'll be worth more than that, and then we obviously profit from it. Does that make sense? So that's why UEFA brought in this rule about multi-club ownership and not being able to sell players to each other. So I understand the fundamental basics of why they've done it. But what I don't understand is, in this case with Jean-Claire Todibo, West Ham have submitted 40 million euros bid, right? Which is his market value. We can all agree on that. I would say he's worth 40 million. Would you all agree? That's what, 35 million pounds? Why are we not able to match that bid? Like, how are we benefiting from it? We would be paying the market value because there's another Premier League club who isn't even in Europe, let me say, offering 40 million for him. And apparently he is travelling to London now to complete his medical and become a West Ham player. I was having a look at the West Ham squad earlier on today, right? And I know this isn't a West Ham channel, but their team looks absolutely mad for next season. And this is why when people are like, oh, Erik ten Hag has to finish first or second this season. It's his 3rd year. There's no excuses now. Like, all you have to go and do is look at some of the other teams in the Premier League, right? West Ham's team now is Wan-Bissaka probably, Todibo, Kilman, Emerson, Paquetá, Alvarez, Kudos, Somerville, who they've just signed from Leeds, who's quality, Fulkrug, and Jared Bowen. I genuinely would probably take quite a few of their players. I'd take Alvarez instead of Casemiro. I'd take Todibo instead of Johnny Evans, Maguire, or Lindelof. I would take Paquetá over Mason Mount. I would probably take Kudos as well. Like, they've got some absolutely unbelievable players, and now they're just about to sign Jean-Claire Todibo. Big ups to Fred, who's just gifted 5 memberships to the Daily Red Devil Members Club. Thank you very much for your support, my friend. I really, really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you very much for your support, mate. I really appreciate it. If you've just been gifted a membership by Fred, make sure you say thank you to him in the comment section. He is one of our mods here. He's always very supportive, absolute legend. So yeah, thank you very much for your ongoing support, my friend. I really do appreciate it. Yeah, what a nice thing to do on a Friday. So thank you for that, mate. Really appreciate that. But yeah, West Ham have made some unbelievable deals this summer, and it looks like they're now going to sign Jean-Claire Todibo. This was confirmed by Fabrizio. But back to the point I was trying to make, right? How is it okay that we aren't allowed to match this bid? It doesn't make sense. I would understand if Manchester United offered £1 million for Todibo and it was accepted. That would be dodgy. We can all agree on that, right? But when you've got another Premier League club there offering 40 million, that clearly shows you what the market value is. It's a club in the same league as us. Like, I don't get it. And if anybody in the chat could try and like counter argument with me here, I'd appreciate it, because it's just really frustrating, to be honest. And I think Todibo would have been the perfect signing. I would have loved him to come to the club. I think he would have been a much better option than De Ligt, to be honest. And for 40 million euros, it makes him look cheap compared to De Ligt. Remember, Bayern Munich are still asking for 50 million for De Ligt. And now West Ham are about to go and sign Todibo for only 40 million. And they're the same age. Obviously, I know De Ligt's won a lot more in it, and etc. But, you know, De Ligt is injury prone, maybe. Jean-Claire Todibo, I don't think is. So, yeah, it's really frustrating. Fabrizio has said that apparently there is some sort of sell-on clause. I don't know exactly what that is. Maybe it's a release clause. Maybe that opens the door to Manchester United selling him next summer. Sorry, Manchester United buying him next summer. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how that materialises. But, yeah, really, really, really disappointed that Manchester United have missed out on Jean-Claire Todibo. I think he would have been the absolute perfect player for the team. Al says, the rules are the rules. There's no point complaining about them. I'm not complaining. I'm questioning them. There's a difference between complaining and questioning. I understand the rules. I understand why they've been brought in, but I think they need to be tweaked. That's what I'm saying. And I think that the rules make sense when players are being sold for under their market value. But the point I'm making is Jean-Claire Todibo's market value has now been determined by the market, because West Ham have bid a certain amount for him. That bid's been accepted, and it feels like the correct market value. So why Manchester United aren't now allowed to pay that amount of money, it doesn't make sense. The only narrative where it makes sense is where, you know, if Jean-Claire Todibo joined United for like £1 million, you'd be like, well, that's obviously dodgy, isn't it? Does everyone agree? Yeah, let me just have a sip of my tea. I always forget to drink my tea when I'm live. But let's move on to Matthias de Ligt, shall we? We've gone from Jean-Claire Todibo to Matthias de Ligt. So the news this morning on both de Ligt and Manuel Ugarte, so this is coming out from multiple people, is that apparently Manchester United will not be held ransom by the likes of Bayern Munich and PSG, who continue to price their players too highly. So, I mean, at this point, it doesn't even look like de Ligt's going to happen, to be honest. The Premier League starts a week today. We play Man City in the Community Shield tomorrow in a game which I want to win. I don't care whether people say it's a friendly. I think it's so important that we win this game tomorrow, because I think if we don't, then the negative narrative is already going to be coming out that Man United made a mistake. Man United lost 3-0 to Liverpool in the pre-season, and now they've lost to Man City. Like, we need to win tomorrow. Winning tomorrow doesn't mean that we're going to have a successful season, but I think it mentally it sets these players up better than if we went and lost badly tomorrow. And as well, I think if we lose badly tomorrow, our chances of getting any cheap deals over the line pretty much goes out the window. Like, if we lose tomorrow with Johnny Evans and Martinez as our centre-back partnership, then Bayern Munich are going to be like, we're not dropping our price. You're desperate. You've got no Maguire, no Lindelof. Lenny Yoro's out for 12 weeks. 42 million or nothing, you know? So, yeah, I think tomorrow's game is actually way more important than a lot of people make out. And I know some people are like, I don't care about it. I get it. It's a friendly game. You win a shield. You don't win a trophy. But in the bigger picture, in the overall perspective, winning this game tomorrow will have such a big impact on our season, I think. And whether that's to do with transfers, whether that's to do with mentality, whether that's to do with the general mood around the club, because at the moment, some people in the fan base, I mean, on this channel, I try and be very fair and non-reactive. or toxic, because that's who I am as a person. But if you go on Twitter now, there's already people calling for Ineos to leave, you know? Imagine if we lose tomorrow. Like, that's only going to be escalated. There'll be people coming for the manager, people saying that Ineos don't know what they're doing, saying that there are people saying that Ineos are as bad as the Glazers already. There are genuinely people out there, a lot of them as well, just because we didn't overspend on players. Which, that whole conversation just completely baffles me as well, because like those same people, and I haven't seen it in this community, to be fair, which is really, really nice, but those same people are the people that complain about the debt, they complain about overpaying, they complain about wages, but yet at the same time, they're now complaining that Ineos aren't doing those things and saying they're as bad as the Glazers. I mean, Ineos are trying to do the complete opposite of what the Glazers did. They're trying to live within their means, they're trying to get people off the wage book, they're trying to sell players, and they're not going to overpay on transfers. Every single thing that I've just listed there is the complete opposite of how the Glazers have run the club. The Glazers handed out stupid contracts, overpaid for players, and spent too much money that they didn't have. That was what they did. And Ineos are doing the opposite. And I think in the long run, what Ineos are doing will be beneficial, I think. But it's going to take time. It's not an overnight thing. There's been 4 weeks of this window so far, roughly, isn't there? But yeah, let me know how you're feeling about the mood at the moment. And I do really think that tomorrow's game is very, very important. Jay says, how many injuries do you think we will get tomorrow? Mate, we've already got, I think, 9 players injured tomorrow. You do realise that the only defenders we've got tomorrow are Martinez, Johnny Evans, and Dalot. So I think it's going to be Harry Amas at left back, Johnny Evans, Dalot, and Martinez. That will be our back four tomorrow, which isn't awful, but when you think that we start the season in a week, we definitely do need to strengthen the squad. But it's obviously very difficult now because these other teams are looking at us and they know that we're in this position where we need to strengthen. So yeah, in relation to De Ligt, I think this one's going to drag on and on and on and on. Apparently Bayern Munich have pulled out of the race to sign Jonathan Tah now, so that probably complicates things slightly. Obviously, Bayern Munich were under pressure because they'd agreed a deal with Leverkusen for Jonathan Tah, but apparently that deal has now fallen through and they will not be proceeding with the Jonathan Tah deal. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe Matthias De Ligt will end up staying at Bayern Munich now. That is probably a possibility that we all have to consider. If he does, there are other options out there that we could go for. I mean, Trevor Chalobah's an obvious one, and I know that's probably, again, not the most exciting name, but for a rebuild, someone like Trevor Chalobah for 20-25 million, who can play at right back, centre back, left back, and CDM, isn't a terrible idea. Premier League proven, is quite decent, I think. He's not world class, don't get me wrong, but he's not terrible. He would be an interesting option. Maybe we go in for Jonathan Tah. Like, that's the thing that I don't understand, right? If Manchester United know that Jonathan Tah is available for 30 million euros total package, including add-ons, why are we not just going for him? If Bayern Munich are going to be like, no, we want 50 million euros, then why do we not just go and sign him? The only thing I will say is Jonathan Tah doesn't really fit the age profile that we're looking for. Ineos said when they came in that they want to sign players under the age of 25, and Jonathan Tah is 28, so maybe they see it like he's a little bit too old for them, you know? Whereas if you look at some of the other players we've been linked to, right? Trevor Chalobah, again, I know it's not the most exciting name. Trevor Chalobah, 25 years of age. That's exactly the age that Manchester United are looking for. 25 and under is apparently the age that they're going for. Sander Berge, apparently, yeah, he's also 25 years of age. So you can kind of see the pattern here. And I think that Manchester United want these younger players. So, yeah. But maybe they do go for him. Olsen says, I like Trevor Chalobah and most Chelsea fans don't want to sell. Yeah, I was speaking to my mate, one of my best friends who's a Chelsea fan last night, and he was like, Trevor Chalobah is quality. And this is somebody who watches Chelsea every single week for his whole life, you know? He was saying he's really good. And he was saying that Trevor Chalobah was one of the vital pieces of the puzzle, which kind of saved their season last year. He said that Trevor Chalobah was, at the end of the second half of last season, him and Cole Palmer, like, saved their season. Somebody says that Jonathan Tah isn't United quality. I'll be honest, I don't really know that much about Jonathan Tah. Like, I've seen him a couple of times, but yeah. I I wouldn't go for Jonathan Tah personally. I would rather get Trevor Chalobah. I think his versatility would be really, really useful just because he can play in like loads and loads of positions. And if you think about tomorrow, right, our only fit left back is Harry Amas. Literally, Luke Shaw is unavailable and Malacia is unavailable. Whereas you've got Chalobah, who can play a left back, right-sided centre-back, left-sided centre-back, and he can play as a CDM. He's played in all 5 of those positions, and he's available for as little as £20 million because obviously Chelsea are desperate for money because they've got a ridiculously overinflated squad and they keep signing players. So, yeah, I don't think it's a terrible option. Do I think Manchester United will go for it? I still think they're going to go all out for De Ligt, and I just worry that we're going to get to the last week of the window and then Manchester United will still just pay the money that Bayern Munich want, which will be frustrating, you know, because it'd be very difficult to praise Ineos if we spend 10 weeks negotiating with Bayern Munich only to then pay the money they want, because that's what the Glazers used to do. So I don't think they will do that, though, because I think, you know, if I'm saying that, I'm sure there's lots of other people in the fan base saying if Ineos end up paying the money for De Ligt, then they're going to criticise them, aren't they? We've got over 1,400 people watching the show live now, but we haven't even hit 400 likes yet. Let's get to 1,000, please, guys. Let's do that. And if this is your first time watching, please do subscribe. We're very, very close to 36,000 now. We should hit that by the end of today. Please go and subscribe and let's make sure we get to 36,000. I am giving out 2 Manchester United kits at 40k. So, yeah, make sure you go and do that right now. And, yeah, just another little plug on the Twitter. If you want to continue the conversation with me after the video ends in about 20 minutes, make sure you follow us on Twitter. Great place to have more of a, you know, a personal conversation and have a bit of a back and forth. So go and make sure you like, subscribe, and follow on Twitter. There was something I wanted to talk about as well, right? And is there a world? This was something I thought about this morning and I wanted to bring to the show to have a conversation with you. Now, a lot of clubs in the summer window leave the deals till late. And do you know why that is? It's because a lot of teams don't want to pay the wages of the players throughout the summer. If you think about it, right? If we sign De Ligt now, the season literally starts next week, right? And you're paying wages for him immediately. Whereas if you signed him 10 weeks ago, when he's off at the Euros, all the rest of it, he's off on holiday. And I honestly think that Ineos are the type of people who would be having these types of conversations. We know what Ineos are like. They're firing staff. They're cancelling Christmas parties. Like, they seem to be really, really strict on money. So I want to give you a bit of an example here. Apparently, De Ligt was going to get 175 grand a week. If we'd have signed him 10 weeks ago, and then he literally probably would have only come to the team like on Monday this week, just gone. That was when the players came back to training. Monday, just gone. We would have paid him over that 10 weeks nearly £2 million in wages. I honestly think that that's how they're looking at things now. And I know people are like, what the hell is going on? But I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think that in the last weeks of the window, they're going to do loads of deals because that's the business end of the window. That's when they actually need the players. That's when, that's when they're actually going to get their money's worth out of these people. And I think a lot of clubs, this is a well-known fact. A lot of clubs don't sign players until after they come back from their holidays and all the rest of it because they don't want to pay them to go off on holiday, you know? So, yeah, that was how I tried to make myself feel a little bit more positive this morning and how I tried to, like, evaluate the situation. If we're sat here in 2 weeks' time and we've signed nobody, then obviously this theory goes out the window. But if we go and sign Sander Berge, De Ligt, Mazraoui, and someone else in the next couple of weeks, I think it will be clear to see that Ineos were probably trying to preserve some money, you know? Because if you look at that across all of those players, so say you got Manuel Ugarte, De Ligt, and Mazraoui 10 weeks ago when the window was kind of just opening. Across that period, we would have paid them combined about £6 million in wages. But yet they only would have come back to training like literally 3 days ago on Monday. Does that make sense? And looking at how Ineos are operating so far, as I said, they didn't let any of the staff go to the FA Cup final party. They've, I think, removed like 300 people from Manchester United's workforce who've been there for like 20 years. They're saying if you can't come and work in the office, you're fired. Like they're literally pulling out costs from everywhere. And surely that saving wages is also a cost, you know? That's how I looked at it. But maybe I'm completely wrong. It'd be interesting to see what other people think. Daniel says that is very true. Once the matches start, money flows in, ticket sales, selling jerseys, etc., brings in cash flow to use for late transfers. Yeah, exactly. At the moment, all the money they have is kind of like last year's money, isn't it? They've only released 2 shirts so far. They haven't really signed anybody to really like boost the shirt sales. I don't know how the shirt sales are doing so far. If anybody knows, let me know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. If anybody does know, let me know in the comments section. Like, because I know usually we get these stats coming out saying that, you know, we've sold this amount of shirts already. It's the record number of shirts. But I haven't actually heard anything this summer about how the shirt sales are doing. So I can't imagine it being that much after finishing 8th last season and then this season not really having signed anybody of any, like, you know, any marquee signings. But yeah, I'd be interested to know about that, actually. It'd be really interesting to see, like, how the shirt sales are doing, how that's infecting the, you know, the transfer fees and all the rest of it. But yeah, it'd be interesting to have that conversation. Okay, let's see what else I have planned for the show this morning. I've got a couple of other stories I need to go through, so bear with me just whilst I get them up. Yes, the next story I've got for you is on Sofyan Amrabat. So this is coming out from Damasio, who is, of course, the Italian Sky Sports journalist. He is reporting this morning that apparently Fenerbahce and Galatasaray have submitted offers to Fiorentina for Sofyan Amrabat. So there are 2 bids on the table as it stands for Sofyan Amrabat. Apparently they were both around 10 million euros, which is very low. That's what, 7 or 8 million pounds. Apparently Fiorentina are asking for 15 million euros to sell Amrabat this summer. Apparently Amrabat wants to come to Manchester United. That's his dream. He wants to come back. But as it stands, it doesn't really look like Manchester United are prioritising a deal for... yeah, he doesn't really look like that's the priority, does it? And I think now that there's other clubs that have entered the race, if Manchester United want Amrabat, they're going to have to act quite quickly. What? What the hell is this? There's some other breaking news that's just caught me here. Is this actually real? Hold on, let me just check this is real, because something's just come up on my screen and it sounds pretty crazy. Not in a good way either. All right. Obviously, this is coming out from Sport Bild. This is coming out from Sport Bild this morning. Literally 30 minutes ago. That Matthias de Ligt is now under police investigation for a hit and run. He is said to have rammed a parked car near the club grounds. FC Bayern and de Ligt have remained silent on the matter. What? What the hell is this? It's obviously now being reported by all the mainstream media as well in the UK, saying that Man United target Matthias de Ligt is now being investigated by the police for a potential hit and run near the Bayern Munich training ground and could face prison time if found guilty. What? I don't know what that is. That's crazy. That's absolutely mad. I mean, that obviously we don't know the full extent of this situation, but I mean, that's on Sport Bild as well, which is like one of the most reliable like Bundesliga websites, isn't it? Sport Bild. Let me see if I can get any more information on this quickly, because obviously this is a massive story and could have massive significance for Manchester United, obviously, if this is an actual genuine thing. So this is what it says on Sport Bild. Let me read it out for you, right? It says, Matthias de Ligt is being investigated by the German police on suspicion of hit and run. De Ligt is said to have rammed a parked car close to the club's training ground on Wednesday while driving his Audi Q8. He then simply drove away from the scene, with witnesses having called police emergency lines to alert them of the incident. It says de Ligt's car was subsequently towed away and impounded. There's more on it here. It says the Munich police are investigating Matthias de Ligt on suspicion of a hit and run Blah, blah, blah. It says a witness is said to have seen the incident at around 10 a.m., called the police and gave the crucial clue about De Ligt being the driver. The Dutchman was on his way to training. Police are now examining and did not want to comment on the incident for data protection reasons. Bayern Munich and De Ligt have also not given a comment yet. This is out on Sport Bild, which, as I said, is one of the more reliable German outlets. They don't, put out fake stories. I don't really know what to say on that, to be honest. I think people are saying, oh, but he just crashed the car. I think there was someone in the car, it says, and he crashed into a parked car with someone in it and then drove off. That's what it's saying on the story. So somebody's parked in the car outside Bayern Munich's training ground. De Ligt's driving past, crashes into the car. There's somebody in the car who's obviously got injured, and De Ligt's driven off. That's what effectively the story is saying. I mean, we should just 100% walk away from that deal now, without a shadow of a doubt. Like, we do not need that. I'm sorry. We definitely do not need that. So, yeah, Geordie's saying it's on a lot of news sites now. Yeah, I mean, this is literally everywhere. It started on Sport Bild, which is a tier 1 source for the Bundesliga. And now it's being reported by all the UK media as well. I mean, if I was Manchester United, I would not pay anywhere near the money they're asking for, especially with this now overshadowing him, because this isn't going to be cleared up overnight. Stuff like this could take months to be investigated, If he genuinely has driven away from a parked car that he's crashed into that had somebody in it, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I'm not a legal expert, so I'm not going to comment on whether that's right or wrong, and obviously we don't know the full extent of the situation, but when you read out the sentence that I've just had, and you try and analyze that in your brain, like, that doesn't sound good, does it? To me, anyway. But again, yeah, I don't think this is a fake story either. It's literally like all over the internet now, in reliable places. Yeah, I mean, it's literally all over the German media in the last couple of minutes, everywhere. So yeah, we'll wait and see what happens with that one. But that probably means that De Ligt is not going to happen. Al says it's hit and run jail time in Germany. Mate, I've got no idea, to be honest. I've got absolutely no idea about how the law works in Germany. But yeah, I think even just reading out what I've just said and the fact of all the off-field drama we've had over the last couple of years, obviously the Anthony situation, the Greenwood situation, Rashford, going out drinking and all the rest of it. Like, this is the last thing we need. Absolutely the last thing we need. So I would expect Manchester United to walk away from this. If they've got this stance on Mason Greenwood, right, which we're not going to talk about whether Mason Greenwood was right or wrong again, because I don't have the energy for that conversation because it's done. But if Manchester United's stance on Mason Greenwood was that he couldn't come back, right, and obviously it's a completely different crime, but a crime is a crime, right, then you look at this situation with De Ligt, and surely Manchester United will be like, we don't want to be involved in that. Whether it was made up, whether he's innocent, like, there still is this story now out there in the internet that he's effectively being investigated by the German police. Just to be clear, he hasn't been arrested. So it literally just says that he's being investigated by the German police over a suspected hit and run. That's the headline. So obviously we'll wait and see what happens here. Johnny says as well, Maguire in Greece. Yeah, we've got so much issues off the pitch, mate. The last thing we want is another situation where we've got a player with off-field drama that's probably going to hang over him, I mean, that's mad, isn't it? That's absolutely crazy. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to be that bothered if we don't get De Ligt. I'm not. We need to get a centre-back, 100%, but I'm not going to be, like, crying if we don't get De Ligt. Josh says, until he's found guilty, you can't go down the route all the time of being ruthless like that. The thing is, though, mate, I agree with you 100%, but he's not a Manchester United player. He's not our problem at the moment. The point I'm making is, I know you're innocent until proven guilty. I get that. But there's 3 weeks left of the transfer window. The window ends today. And as it stands, our number one transfer target in the centre-back position, where we currently have 4 players out injured, is a player who's being investigated for a hit and run. So when you just put that sentence together, You've got 3 weeks to buy a centre-back. Otherwise, our season could effectively be over before it's even started. And that's not being dramatic. That's realistic. Do Manchester United wait in the hope that this situation gets resolved? Or do they now go out and buy somebody else? I just personally think that this distraction is not what Manchester United need, personally. But, yeah. RD United says, what's your thoughts on revisiting Branthwaite? I mean, Branthwaite would solve a lot of problems. Obviously, he can play at left-back as well. I would still like to sign Branthwaite. I just think the transfer fee is going to be too much for Manchester United at this stage. I think the most realistic option is probably someone like Trevor Chalobah or David Hanko if he doesn't go to Atletico Madrid. But yeah. And just to be very, very clear, right? I'm not pointing any fingers at De Ligt. Obviously, this is just a story that's broken the last couple of minutes and I'm reacting live to it. So, like, we don't know the full extent of the situation and I'm not saying he's guilty. I'm saying nothing on the matter. I'm just giving you the facts that have been put out on the internet. And I'm reading it out to you. And until we know the exact extent of the situation, obviously I can't comment on what happened because I don't know. But all I'm saying is there's 3 weeks left of the window. We've spent 10 weeks negotiating for De Ligt. We've got nowhere. And now he has a police investigation against him. And when you put those things together, forget the rest of it. Like, to me, that's just a sign to walk away, I would say, you know? So yeah, that's my take on it. RD says Branthwaite is pricey, but potentially would have good value in a few years. Mate, yeah, Branthwaite would be a quality signing. I would really, really like Branthwaite. I would. Well, let's do this then, shall we, guys? If we're not going to go for De Ligt, who should we go for? Who would you go for if we're not going to go for De Ligt? Let me know in the comment section. I'm just going to see if there's anything else that's broken about this story in the last minute since we've been live. Let me just double check my Twitter. Everyone smash a like on the video. We've only got 500 likes. We've got over 1,500 people watching, but only 500 likes. Please go and like if you haven't already. And we are 1 subscriber away from 35,700, so go and do that. And I can see loads of you coming over to join us on Twitter as well, which is absolutely amazing. If you do use Twitter, make sure you come and join us. Let's continue the conversation there. I'm just going to see if there's anything else coming out on the De Ligt story. Give me 1 second. Melchett says we should have signed Tosin. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Tosin would have been a great signing. I really like Tosin, and he was available for free. So that's, a fault of Ineos, I guess. But I think he wanted to go to Chelsea, to be honest. That's what I heard. So, you know, you can't put all of the blame on Ineos for that. If a player wants to go somewhere else, you can't force them to go to Manchester United. I'm just seeing if there's anything else on this De Ligt story. So obviously that's completely caught me by surprise. Yeah, there's only what I've read out so far. Obviously, I'm sure this story will develop more over the next couple of days. Hopefully it gets cleared up and hopefully Manchester United can still do the deal. But as it stands at the moment, that doesn't look good for Manchester United or for De Ligt or for Bayern Munich. But yes. Let's see what people are saying in the chat quickly. Loads of people are saying get Hummels in. That's not a name I've heard for a very long time. Hummels. I don't know about Hummels, mate. I do like Hummels, but what is he, like 35? Somebody's saying we should go for Antonio Silva. I mean, Antonio Silva would be a good signing. That's a very, very good option. 20 years of age, available for around 40 million euros, which is within Manchester United's budget. Yeah, I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there for me. Antonio Silva would be quality. Trevor Chalobah would be good as a cheap option. Jared Branthwaite would be good, but too expensive. David Hanko, another good option. Tapsoba. Yeah, there is still players out there. There's plenty of options, but Antonio Silva would be interesting. Fred says De Ligt isn't even a United player yet, so what's the problem? Yeah, that's what I'm saying, mate. It's not our problem, so why would we make it our problem? That's exactly what I'm saying. You know, it might be that this situation gets resolved, but our priority as Manchester United fans is Manchester United. And the fact of the matter is, our season starts next week on Friday. You could even argue our season starts tomorrow, for those of you who care about the Community Shield, right? And at the moment, our only centre-backs are Johnny Evans and Martinez. Lenny Yoro's injured. Lindelof's injured. And Maguire's injured. So we need a centre-back. Somebody's saying, what about Mark Gahey? Gahey would be good, but he's expensive. Abdullah says that Fenerbahce have sent a bid for Amrabat. Yes, they have. Joshua says we should go for Tapsoba. Fabrizio said he was on our list. I think around 40 million euros. Yeah, he'd be quality. Should we do a poll on it quickly before I end the video? So let's do this. So we'll do this. If no De Ligt, then who? I'm just going to set up a poll for this for the centre back situation. I can't put everybody's suggestions in there. Tapsoba, Branthwaite. Who else do you want in there? Inacio. Let's do that. Let's do those 5. Obviously, if you want someone else, you can let me know in the comment section. But those are like the 4 most realistic options. I think David Hanco's going to Atletico. So, yeah, I've not included him. Whereas all the other 4 are kind of available this window. Yeah, so if you want to get involved in that poll, obviously you're more than welcome to. I've set that up so everyone can kind of have their say on the centre-back situation. I'm just going to see if anything else has come out quickly about De Ligt. Let me have a sip of my water as well, actually. Oh, that's better. Very thirsty. Right, where are we? I think we're coming towards the end of the show, to be honest. Feels like it's naturally reaching its conclusion, which I think is always a good sign. I set up the poll a little bit late, so maybe we'll do it on another video. But yeah, I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. At the moment, the results are 47% for Antonio Silva, so he's the leading candidate. But we will repeat this poll once we know more about the De Ligt situation. But thank you very much for watching today, guys. I really appreciate every single one of you. Please make sure to smash a like before you leave. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And as I said, if you are on Twitter, come and join us on our new Twitter page. If you disagree with some of the things I've said, at me on Twitter and we can have a conversation over there. I've just dropped the link in the chat to do that. Have a great day, everybody. I'll be back at 1:30 and 6. Bye for now.